Okay, welcome back. Getting ready to do some ice fishing. I just cleaned up all the stuff that I didn't do last year, which is kind of weird that I didn't do it last year, but must have got antsy to get on the open water. But I cleaned up everything, and I want to go over 5 different setups that I have that I like, and why those 5. So let's start with, we're gonna go from lightest power to heaviest power. So the first setup I've got is this 13 fishing tickle stick, it's called, and it is an ultra light panfish rod. It's got the free fall spool, which I have grown to like in the last couple of years, but at the beginning I did not like at all. There's, just like my bass fishing rods, there's a braid to fluoro on all of my ice fishing stuff. So this is a 8-pound braid to a 2-pound fluoro tied with a little tiny teardrop. Hopefully you can see that teardrop jig. This one's green with an orange belly, and then generally I either put a plastic on that or I put a waxworm on that, depending on how finicky and depending on what's going on. So that's the first rod. That's my panfish rod. That's my bluegill rod, crappie rod, my jigging rod, and my most expensive rod. I really found that I liked 13 fishing in the ice fishing world. I did not like it in the bass fishing world, but I do like it in the ice fishing world. So this is another. So that was an ultra light. This is a light. This is 28 inches. So a 28L 13 fishing wicked ice. I think this is called the Hornet or something like that. Wicked Hornet is what it's called. I really like this combo as well. This is also paired with 8-pound braid, and this, I stepped it up with this one. I step up to a 5-pound fluorocarbon leader, and I go to something that I'm a little bit bigger. So this is a little flutter spoon with a hair treble on it, in a Wonder Bread color. I believe that's what they call that, the red, blue, and yellow. And this is also a jigging rod. I've got a snap swivel on here, and I can quickly switch that around if I want to. Actually, I might retie this to a barrel swivel, snap swivel, so that I don't have to have, I have a swivel down here that's reeling right up to my reel. I'm not a fan of that. I did just retie this, but I found my barrel swivels, and you'll see that on a couple of heavier rods I did. I didn't realize I did this on this rod. Line twist is a big thing with these flutter spoons or with jigging wraps, and you want your bait hanging as straight and natural as possible. So some sort of swivel, whether you do this like I did here or a swivel here, not a snap. That's a snap. You want a swivel into a snap, which I'll show you in a second. But that's my light rod. Those two get the bulk of play when it's panfish day. Little tiny spoon. I can go even smaller spoon with this rod if I want. Let's see if I can find an even smaller spoon to show you. Yeah, there's like, I sorted all my stuff out here. I'm kind of excited, but there's this little tiny spoon. There's great big walleye spoons. There's we'll get into some of this heavier stuff, but there's smaller spoons in here I can go to if I'm pan fishing and want to be jigging actively, which generally I do. I like to stay busy out there. But the next rod is just the opposite. My next rod is my dead stick rod. This is an Abu Garcia Veritas Ice. This is a medium, so it's right in the middle of all my rods. I got ultralight, light, medium. No, this is a medium light. I'm sorry. Medium light, medium heavy. This is a medium light, so it's one step up from that light. Still pretty limber, but this is my dead stick rod. I've got 2 little tiny sinkers on there, a glow hook. This one's pink. And ultimately this just sits in a hole and on a rod holder, and I put a live minnow on that and let the minnow do the work. So not much to that. This is again braid to 5-pound fluoro. And then on my next rod up, I bump it up to 8-pound fluoro. So that's my dead stick rod. This is the medium. That was a medium light. Now we're getting into my walleye stuff. This is another Veritas Ice with a spinning reel. I assume that's like a 1000 size, maybe a 1500 size spinning reel. And with this, I'm jigging. This is a buckshot spoon. Ultra, it glows. You can probably tell that a little bit in the video. But this is a glow. I will either tip this with a wax worm on each treble hook, or a minnow head, or a minnow tail. And that's an active jigging rod. And then the heaviest rod I got, this is a medium heavy, and it's a longer. This is a 36. I think this is still a 28. 29, this other walleye rod I got. And this one I like to put either this little rattle trap or a jig and wrap. Or what are these called? These are called Rapala. This one's not Rapala, but I think it's a jig and wrap. It's basically a heavy chunk of lead that swims around in the bottom of the hole. Looks like a fish profile. And sometimes I will tip that with either a minnow tail or a minnow head as well. But there's a 36-inch rod. Not great for in the shanties, just because of how long it is. But if you're out on a bucket, it's good. If you're in a fish house, it's good. You just gotta plan accordingly where you're going to be sitting. 8-pound braid again. This is 8-pound fluorocarbon, the same as this one. So 8-pound braid to 8-pound fluorocarbon. I will say, if you notice the difference here, this braid, this blue braid, is a ice. It says it's designed specifically for ice, and this is just your regular Power Pro like I would run on my summer setups, my open water setups. And I haven't noticed much of a difference other than they can charge you a lot more for the ice stuff. That's just my findings. I feel if you're outside, out on a bucket a lot, you may notice a bigger difference. Most of the time I'm in a shanty or in a hub house or in the wheelhouse, and it's heated, and I don't really have a lot of problems. If you're out on a bucket and it's windy and cold, that ice braid might be helpful. There's also ice fluorocarbon. Again, I don't notice a difference. That 5-pound stuff is just sniper fluorocarbon. It's the same stuff, only I use 6 and 8-pound in the summer. So it's the same stuff. But there is ice specific lines that you can get for this stuff. But that's my rod and reel setup for ice fishing, all the way from panfish to walleyes, northern. Yeah, that's I've got tons of, you can get so many, you can go so far down the rabbit hole with ice fishing. These are all the little jigs I got. That's one side. Here's some vertical jigs. That's the other side. You can see all the different colors and variations, and you don't need all that, but I like to play around and see what they like. Sometimes a color will be hotter than others. Sometimes the size will matter. Whether you got a great big jig like these up at the top, you know, this thing's huge compared to this. That can make a huge difference in whether you're catching fish or not. So live bait is generally the way to go. If you can get some wax worms, they're cheap. You can get 50 wax worms for $4 or $5 generally, and that'll catch you bluegill. That'll keep you busy on the ice as long as you're in the right spot all day long. So anyway, that's the rod and reel setup. You do not have to have all that. If you only have one, start in the middle. Start with that medium. Some medium power 28 to 32 inch rod. If you're in the house, you can even go down to 24-inch rod. But a medium power, I would suggest the spinning setup instead of the free drop, unless you like the free drop and know what's going on. And yeah, get yourself a couple jigs. Get yourself a couple of these, maybe one of these little spoons, and you'll have a little bit of variety, and you can go out and have a ton of fun on the ice. So thanks for watching. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, hit the notification bell, all the bells and whistles you'll see here at the end. Appreciate you. We'll catch you next time.